Christianity, which was the religion I was practicing before, Muslims were responsible for terror attacks. I made an appointment with the chaplain, the pastor, and I said, look, I'm at the point where I'm questioning my faith, and if you can't give me an answer,
you just have to believe.
And you just have to believe. He just sat and answered all of my questions. And I just remember thinking, wow, like...
Jenny DeFlely adalah seorang guru bahasa isyarat dari Kanada. Ia menjadi mualaf beberapa hari setelah mendebat Islam. Jenny lahir dan dibesarkan dalam keluarga Kristen konservatif. Ia merupakan lulusan linguistik dengan kompetensi bahasa isyarat. Selama pendidikan di universitas itulah, Jenny mencoba mencari tahu jawaban atas banyak pertanyaan tentang imannya. Sejak itulah ia mulai mengenal agama lain selain kekristenan.
I was born in Canada, as were my parents. We all grew up in Western British Columbia. My father is a police officer for the RCMP, it's the Canadian Royal Mounted Police, and my mom is a nurse. So I studied American Sign Language interpretation at university. Before I became a Muslim, I'm going to say I knew very little of Islam, if not anything. I mean, I remember the first Muslim that I can remember meeting was actually somebody I worked with when I was in high school, and I had no idea she was Muslim. I learned many years later, actually, after I had converted to Islam. I suppose my only exposure to Islam was anything I had seen on the media, particularly post 9/11, and any sort of whatever the media wanted me to hear, right? So that Muslims were responsible for terror attacks or these kinds of ideas. I think I had maybe a prejudgment about that women in Islam were oppressed. I remember specifically when I was looking into Islam, one of the questions I remember asking was, is it true that women can only sit in the back seat of cars, right? So I have no idea where that notion came to me, but somewhere that was a prejudgment that I had. So aside from kind of whatever I had ever seen in the media, I had no knowledge. I didn't even know that Muslims were the practitioners of Islam, right? So it was very basic.
Dengan berbekal pengetahuan yang salah terhadap Islam itulah, Jenny mulai kritis, mendebat orang Islam yang berada di sekitarnya. Ia mendebat dengan cara yang sangat sopan, sehingga lama-kelamaan ia tertarik untuk mencari tahu lebih banyak tentang Islam.
I had a conversation with a Muslim, and I remember being so shocked because the images that I had seen on the media were so different from this individual. And then later on we had a discussion as well about the fact that the prophets between Islam and Christianity were similar, which was news to me. And I remember thinking, wow, I should learn something about this religion. Like, what if I'm ever in an opportunity, or if I ever have to interpret at a mosque, or I should get some background knowledge. So I just decided to read into Islam to expand my knowledge in case I ever was going to interpret in that situation. And in the meantime, I was still having conversations with the individual that I had met about Islam. And so as I was reading and seeing that there were so many similarities between Christianity, which was the religion I was practicing before, and Islam, I just became more and more shocked at how many similar ideas there were. So from there, I continued to do some research. And the more research that I did, the more I understood that there was things about Islam that I really appreciated. And then there was things about Christianity that I started to question. And eventually I was working at university at that time. I was working at a country club, and there was a Muslim family, a Syrian Muslim family at the time. They had just joined, and I understood they were Muslim. And I said, oh, I see that you're Muslim, and I'm learning about Islam a little bit. I'm reading about Islam, and the man, he was really keen to talk or to bring me books or help in any way that he could, and eventually they invited me to the mosque with them and to their home, and so I went because I was learning about Islam, and I was eager to go and see the community, and then when I went to the mosque, I ended up meeting some really wonderful women, young women that were my age, who I became quite close friends with.
Selama berbicara dengan banyak muslim dan membaca berbagai buku tentang Islam inilah, Jenny mulai melihat banyak kebenaran dalam Islam dan sebaliknya begitu banyak penyimpangan di dalam agama Kristen. Hal yang paling menarik hatinya adalah bagaimana sejarah Al-Quran dan Injil bertahan. Ia terpesona bagaimana firman Tuhan itu terpelihara selama 1400 tahun tanpa ada perubahan satu huruf pun. Sebaliknya ia mempertanyakan tentang keaslian Alkitabnya sendiri. Menurut Wycliffe Global Alliance, saat ini semua ayat Injil telah berubah versi ke dalam 724 bahasa, Perjanjian Baru telah disalin ke dalam 1617 versi bahasa tambahan, dan sebagian kecil dari Injil telah diinterpretasi ke dalam 1248 bahasa lain. Lalu Jenny memberanikan diri untuk menanyakan hal ini kepada pastor di kampusnya, dengan sedikit ancaman, akan keluar dari Kristen jika ia tak mendapatkan jawabannya.
And slowly, without even my knowing it, the search that was just initially just to kind of become a better human being and to gain knowledge, I started to ask myself some serious questions about, like, is this something that I really believed? And what were the questions that I was struggling with within Christianity? And these are things that I needed to contemplate more. And I remember one evening, as a few months into reading about Islam, as things were starting to get more serious for me, and I was realizing that this was a religion that I really wanted to consider, I remember praying at night and just asking Allah, and I just saying, Allah, whoever you are, or God, whoever you are, if you're God of Christianity or if you're God of Islam, show that to me and kind of give me a sign, but make it clear to me, right, which is truth. And after I made that supplication and I prayed that prayer that night, it was everything just became so much clearer. I really met amazing Muslim people in my life. The questions that I was struggling with, just about the faith or about modesty, like covering, or monotheism, or the history of the Quran, like all these kinds of things, God just kept putting people in my life to answer those questions. So I was really concerned about the fact that I was looking into Islam, but people didn't know that. I hadn't told my friends, I hadn't told my family. And what was that going to mean if I did accept Islam, and how would they receive me? And so I had made that prayer about, God, who are you? God of Christianity, God of Islam. And I made an appointment with the chaplain, the pastor of the Christian community on our university campus. And I had asked him, I sat down with him and I said, look, I'm at the point where I'm questioning my faith and I have some questions. And if you can't give me an answer, I believe I'm going to become Muslim. You can't give me an answer, I believe I'm going to become Muslim. And a lot of the questions particularly were with the Bible, actually, and how the Bible was selected and how the books of the Bible were selected, and the canonicity of the Bible, and why wasn't the original Bible in existence, and why was there such discrepancy between the different versions of the Bible, and whereas the Quran has been preserved for 1400 years, and that was something that was really significant for me, because God, even in Christianity, God says he will protect his word. And there was the Quran, that was the message of God, that even if it was physically destroyed, it would be protected because so many people have memorized it, and the original is still in existence. And then here was the Bible that there was no original, and within the versions there were so many, interpretations. And so I sat down with this pastor and I asked these questions, and he couldn't give me any answer. And he said, in the end, you just have to believe, and that's what faith is, and you just have to believe. And
you just have to believe.
And that was a struggle for me. That didn't feel right, because I felt surely religion and belief, it's more than just like a hunch, or it's more than a feeling, or it's more than an idea. Like I wanted something that felt more concrete.
Tampaknya hidayah itu mulai membuntutinya. Allah mulai menempatkan orang-orang baik yang menuntunnya pada jawaban atas semua pertanyaannya. Tibalah hari itu, hari di mana datangnya pemuda Muslim, seorang ulama perbandingan agama dari Inggris, yang akan mengisi konferensi di kampusnya. Jenny tidak menyia-nyiakan kesempatan ini. Dia hadir dan menjumpai pemuda muslim ini dan menanyakan semua pertanyaan yang pernah ia tanyakan kepada pastornya, dan ia pun merasa takjub dengan jawaban yang diterimanya, sehingga ia mantap mengikrarkan 2 kalimat syahadat memeluk Islam.
And the same weekend at my university, there was a conference that had been put on by the local Muslim Student Association, and they brought in a speaker from England. And I just remember walking in that weekend, and all of the youth were there, all of these students, and everybody wanted to meet him. He was quite popular at the time, and everybody wanted to talk to him and spend time with him. And I walked up to him, and he just sat and answered all of my questions. And I just remember thinking, wow, I went to this pastor and I had these questions, and he couldn't give me his answers. He couldn't be clear to me. And then this man who everybody wants to speak with, he dedicated hours, literally hours of his time to just sit there and to answer my questions. And the other really unique part of it, because I asked him the same questions I asked the pastor, I asked him questions about the Bible. And this brother from England, he gave me the history not from the Muslim perspective. He was a comparative religious scholar, and he gave me the perspective from the Christian church, from the Christian history books. And he said, look, this is the history. If you want to go read about it, you can just go to like a Christian textbook that you'd find at a Christian university. And I so appreciated that perspective, because I didn't want his bias. I wanted truth. I wanted something concrete, which is what I had gone to the pastor for. And in that moment, I felt like so much relief that I was like, there it is, there's the facts. But at the same time, I questioned, why had I never learned this when I went to church or Sunday school? Because I was very active in the Christian church growing up. And anyway, so at the end of the evening, he asked me, he said, do you believe in Allah? And I said, yeah, I've always believed in God. That's no problem. The concept of God has never been an issue. And then he said, do you believe that the Prophet Muhammad is the final prophet and messenger? And I said, yeah, I think that makes sense. And then, so he said to me, he said, go wash, take your ablutions, and come back, and let's give your shahada, your testimony of faith. And I was just like, whoa, no, this is not happening right now. I can't do this right now. Because again, I was at that point where I knew it was truth, but I was so scared to take the step. And it was funny, because I had prayed and I had asked God, I was like, who are you? And show me truth. And there it was. But in that moment, it was just like, I needed to take the step, God did his part. It was time for me to do mine. But again, I knew what that meant for me. I knew that meant the following day I would put on hijab, or which not everybody does, but for me it was a really important step. I knew if I was going to make this decision, I was going to live as a Muslim, and that was going to mean no more drinking alcohol, and no partying, no pork, no putting a hijab on. And so I told him, no, I'm not going to become Muslim tonight. And we continued the discussion. And at the end of it, I said, look, this conference is 2 days long. If at the end of the weekend I feel like I do today, I will become Muslim, I'll make that decision, which is what I did. So that was a Friday night. And then on the Sunday, May 14th, I gave my testimony of faith in front of everybody at this conference and became Muslim.